Like, you know, just before we hopped in, we had to switch the UI around because they decided to be on the wrong side. I always watch for that. I mean, I've got to accept in this situation, only one English player can be red. But, you know, it's kind of surprising. I wonder what would be our mirror matchup in this series. I don't know about you, but I didn't have the English clocked unless we went all the way to game 7.
I really get the feel that it's essentially about the maps that we have and the order at which you pick them. Because if you consider the fact that Danube River and Frisian Marshes are the two maps that are left over for game number 6 and 7 should we go there, you get the reason why English Mirror is a pick here. It feels like it's a necessity simply because you want to reserve your HRE, and it is French and Abbasids left for one player apiece. It's Abbasids left for PuppyPaw still, and French left for VortiX. You want to reserve those civilizations for the other two maps simply because English feels more than underwhelming on a map like Frisian Marshes, and somewhat questionable on a map like Danube River.
Yeah, that's an interesting element to think about actually here. The way that PuppyPaw has played this draft, he's now in a situation where if we go into Frisian, well, the only like viable choice out of the top 3 candidates that Vortex has is to pick his HRE. At that stage, PuppyPaw could just choose to go for the French, gamble on whether that rush is going to work, and always have the fallback plan of the HRE that are considered to be the de facto kings on Danube River.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, as you pointed out, if we go to game number 7, let's say Dino River, and let's keep in mind, it is PuppyPaw's home maps we're playing right now. Given the fact that he's at match point, every single game that we are playing ever since the previous one was home maps of PuppyPaw. Which means
Yeah.
that he is the one deciding which map we go for in game number 6 and game number 7, should we get there. So, as you said, he could pop out Frisian Marshes as game number 6 if he needs to, pick his French, and then hope that VortiX is going to take the HRE. And then if we go to game number 7, he would have HRE available against the French himself.
And something I love about seeing the English here, I think actually like the interesting civs to watch on this map a lot. Like the Rus have some cool flexibility around boars, but I think at the end of the day, like the really interesting civ matchups involve Mongols and English, simply because like the attention required around the stealth forest is doubled down for multiple reasons. Like most civs should want vision because it allows you to see what's coming in an area where you just don't have that info. You're blind when you're running through the stealth forest. On top of that, the English and the Mongols, the only civs that really get a true secondary value in the auras that they gain. And I think that's what I'm going to be watching for, is I don't necessarily expect many longbow rushes per se, but I wouldn't be surprised if one player just tries to dictate flow in the mid-map by getting early outposts in those forests.
I agree with you. I think in this matchup, you probably want to play safe. We talked about this one. That stealth forest that poses a big danger to any forces moving out, especially when you have a slow-moving army of, let's say, longbow spearmen. So I could also see either of these players trying to go for just a handful of units, some longbows, maybe some spearmen being afraid of a surprising horseman play, which actually increased a lot in popularity, and just work towards a slow-paced game where he is dropping towers all across the stealth forest, and play that mid-late game instead of being very aggressive at the beginning, with all the vision that he gets from the towers providing insight into the stealth forest.
I actually really like the idea of Horseman you mentioned for a set there. Like, if you actually look at the gold on both these players, they are somewhat exposed. You can see that with Puppy Paws, one of them is criminal. Like, I don't understand what that gold vein is compared to his opponent. Like, it could not be more surrounded by stealth forest without it being in a stealth forest at this stage. And that's dangerous because when you're on the edge there, right, you can't see into them. Imagine how quickly Horseman can gap close from there and then body block you out from retreat.
And keep in mind that you are expecting your opponent to go up with the council hall, so you know that longbows can be a reality for your opponent. Which also,
Yeah.
to a certain extent, incentivizes you going for horsemen, because that preemptively counters the number 1 unit that your opponent can go for. Of course, the opponent can mix in spearmen, but why would your opponent mix in spearmen unless he's absolutely certain that you're going horsemen? So you could have that step advantage.
The interesting thing to think about here is like their gold veins are similar enough, I'd say. Like you can see that VortiX has 2 retracted ones, but they're condensed together, so they're a prime target. At the same time, PuppyPaw in theory has a fallback, but they're also exposed in a way that says like whoever's aggressing will be able to manipulate the gold. That's what I like to see. Like I know there's been a lot of arguments recently about, you know, oh, these spawns are unfair. Do we just need like mirrored matchups, like completely like, you know, default spawns to make sure it's fair? No, I think it's a case of like you just need to have options. Like when we're assessing new maps, I've been talking about this a lot. The whole concept is like I don't expect everything to be fixed, everything to be random. I just feel like when we get into a game, a player should have a few backup options available to them. It shouldn't be a case of if I block out one resource with one outpost, your game completely crumbles.
Yeah, that's exactly it. As you said, fallback options is a key in these maps. And when we are looking at maps, when we are evaluating maps when it comes to, future custom maps being implemented to Road to Wololo, for instance, that's one of the #1 things we look at. It's not necessarily about whether it's always spawning perfectly. It's not even about the fact that, how clean it is or how predictable it is. It's the fact that what happens if I deny this resource? Is there a backup option?
And looks like VortiX wants to deny some resources. We've got a differing approach here. PuppyPaw is very delayed on his tech up. VortiX has rushed it. Lombo's already being queued up to 5, in fact. That's a heavy investment. 450 resources already put that way. PuppyPaw, in the meantime, is stockpiling. Curious to see if he's going to try to play defensive into a quick castle, or if he's now going to switch hard into stables to counter out what is coming, because he does have the info.
It's a surprising combo. For now, he is opening with longbows here, but his wood count isn't spectacular. Now, keep in mind, he's going to have the network of castles bonus defending here, and it's much easier for him to reinforce this battle. So maybe he's fine going for, let's say, 4 longbows back at home to defend, because even if VortiX has 6 of those longbows or 7 of those longbows out there, not all of them will be right next to PuppyPaw's base minute #1.
Yeah, and in this situation, like, what I'm looking for is if PuppyPaw is going to be able to get a defensive outpost up, because otherwise these dive-ins are going to come, and the Lombo damage can add up very quick. He has got the counter Lombos. One beautiful thing about the Council Hall means you can build up defensive units very fast, and that's actually why we see it so often. There's been arguments of why not Abbey of Kings, especially if you don't even build out of it. We've seen players like Mr. not even utilize Longbows early on. It's to keep that option available, right? It's to threaten your opponent with it, so they maybe don't think about going for something that would be countered by Longbows.
Exactly, this is the #1 thing I told devs when it comes to the Abbey of Kings. I said this to them, look, you only use Abbey of Kings when you are definitely going Horseman, and even in the cases where you go Horseman, you sometimes still choose the Council Hall. So the moment the opponent sees the Abbey being built, he knows what your game plan is. Whereas on the other side, when it comes to the Council Hall, that's your obvious landmark to go for. So it's not possible for your opponent to figure out what exactly you're planning to do just by spotting the Council Hall being built.
Yeah, I feel like that should actually be changed. It shouldn't be Abbey of Kings, it should be Abbey of the Defender, because that's when you build it. I don't think you ever want that landmark if you're aggressing. So even if you're winning Horseman, like, if you're going aggressive, it doesn't serve a purpose. Like, I hate these Fury crafts where they're like, oh, wrap Horseman in their base and then run and back and heals. Like, so let me get this clear. You're going to take about 20 seconds to get to their base. You're going to wrap in, maybe kill like 1 or 2 villagers. You're going to take another 20 seconds to run back to your base. And then you're going to heal an array of, I think it's like 6 every 1.5 seconds.
Exactly.
I don't want to math that out. That sounds slow. Maybe I'm just impatient, but maybe I feel like I've only got a year to live. I don't want to wait that long.
Yeah, and VortiX doesn't want to wait that long either. He's dropping a tower in the stealth forest out there. Now, PuppyPaw is moving in that direction. Picking off that villager would be huge value, but
really
it's a big danger.
He pulls him back. He doesn't commit. PuppyPaw doesn't even see the tower yet. He doesn't have a scout here, so instead, this is just going to be a good trade for PuppyPaw, even getting rid of the scouting vision. Now backing away. Hasn't got enough troops still, so it will be a renewed push in. VortiX looks like he will be able to get that outpost up. Even though the villager wasn't exposed, he did not want to risk losing it because it looks like PuppyPaw
He doesn't see the longbows either.
Again.
He doesn't see the longbows either.
The villager is completely ignored. He doesn't have the vision on it. And once again, backs away just to play it safe.
This is the difficult thing in this match, as we said. Spotting those units crossing the stealth forest, that's a big challenge. Scout actually diving in here to provide some more line of sight could also be used to absorb arrow fire, but PuppyPaw is now doubling down on the longbow numbers. He's denying the tower here.
Defensive. Yeah, he's defensive as well, Lidakor, which means he gets more troops to the fight quicker than VortiX does. The crazy part about this is VortiX was miles ahead. It doesn't look like it now, and it probably didn't look like it then because it was only 1 unit difference. The reason he was miles ahead is that PuppyPaw had no scouts. This stealth forest fight should have been incredibly difficult, but yet he makes it work, and now PuppyPaw not only taking the lead in this fight in the center, but now looking to take the lead as he makes his way towards Castle Age.
But by going into Castle Age, he's contemplating stopping longbow production. Tower does not get seen over here. Finally, the villager is spotted. First volley comes out. Villager survives for the time being. Tower very close to completion, though. Is this coming in time here for VortiX, though?
That's the problem, right? Like, what does it now do? If he techs up, you're discarded. Like, you don't get the value anymore. You need to do some serious economical damage before you get out-ecoed entirely in this game.
And that first tower is not even close enough to support the longbows right next to that forest. You need a second follow-up tower, but... Oh, PuppyPaw's age up though. PuppyPaw's age up, that could be denied.
Yep, no. But the shortbows can fight back. Longbows and shortbows, they have the attack speed buffer. This is not a lot of longbows. Maybe you snipe a few, but looks like PuppyPaw isn't going to fight him. He's building the stables. He's not paying attention. He'll pull back now, but that's a big mistake.
He is getting his castle age denied here. There isn't enough longbows. Look at the numbers. 2 longbows for PuppyPaw. This could be a disaster. Not enough wood for the longbows even.
And VortiX is doubling down. Look at the count at the top. He has 15 longbows across this map, and they are pulling themselves forward to the front line, all because PuppyPaw didn't rush it up. Originally pulling about 15 villages, but then only committing 7 to 8 is why he's only halfway complete.
And look at the longbows now coming in from the south as well. They will deny the wood. Cancels the landmark. But he also lost some resources. That was a damaged building. He had to wait a little bit. Oh, this is so bad.
Is this White now? No, it's still King's Palace. He's being very greedy here. The TC could protect him, though. He can shuffle around the other side, so VortiX won't be able to deny him indefinitely. And remember that VortiX has not gone into any blacksmith upgrades in the way of siege. There is no ramp potential here, so no way of blocking this from going up. VortiX, with the reinvestment, is going to find himself slowed in his approach to castle.
But it's going to be potentially even faster than what PuppyPaw has. That's the magical thing in here. VortiX just needed to buffer this up. He doubled down on the longbows. He wasn't able to completely stop the castle age, but look at the damage he's doing. Picking off villagers, numerous villagers, and more importantly...
He's not getting that many anymore. Ooh, too many longbows are gone. Like, he done a good job, but now it stops. VortiX, like, he has to get the tech up. And also, he's mismacroed here. Look at his food.
Yeah, that's ugly. Looks like he actually added some more longbows here, and because of that, he's missing out on castle age. Now, this is an issue for him. Because if he reached castle age in like 30 seconds, I would say this was great, but he's slow. He's running out of food here.
I'm surprised by this. Like, VortiX, he had so much gold, just need to peel it back a little bit. The reinvestment, like, I'm perplexed where the value was meant to be here. So many longbowmen were going down. You knew this was going to happen. You could have cancelled the queue, but sadly, it seems like you already have in the field, and this can be the weakness, can't it, Lidakor, when we see these English longbow spams. They take so long to get their value because when you're in the offensive, it's a 1.12 movement speed unit that has to run across the map.
And it's so easy to lose them, to tower fire, to town center fire. VortiX had to dance back and forth with those longbows. I'm sure that the food miss macro was essentially caused by the fact that he was macroing those longbows so heavily. He's still doing some damage with this, but all the damage that he has done with the longbows when it comes to killing villagers is offset by the fact that PuppyPaw is already on a second town center and VortiX isn't. So when VortiX reaches castle age, it's essentially gonna be an even villager scenario, if not a lead for PuppyPaw.
And the thing he will have a lead in is the Knights. The Knights are crucial here. Now all he's missing is aggressive outpost, because one thing that will not boot VortiX out this game too quickly, even if he's behind on Knights, is that you have got to consider that attack aura that will be there for the defender. And actually, because VortiX still has this aggressive outpost up, it'll also be there for him on the aggressive.
Double stable is working now for VortiX. He's up against 2 Knights. There's only a single stable on the other side. And you see VortiX is also trying to capitalize on map control, going for the monastery, going for the relics.
Interesting play here. Considering Knights are already shown for part 4, this could be very risky. Like, oh my, come on. This is like the dog waiting outside the house. The cat's at the window. It's like, I'm not going out there. Like, I know what he wants. I'm not. No, I'm not his chew toy.
Well, there is a stall forest, truth be told.
Wait. What? Is PuppyPaw going on deer? He is.
I mean, we talked about this one. Pocket ecos can be worth it if you want to turn all your resources into army. And that seems to be the case here for PuppyPaw. He doesn't want to invest into more farms. He wants to go for on army production. He now needs a second stable as well, keep that in mind. He can't afford to spend the wood on the farms. He needs it on stable, and he was off from wood for a long time, so he was kind of forced to go on hunt here to a certain extent.
I think if he goes triple stable, this makes sense, but this is the problem that's now coming. Like, his Knights aren't in a position, he hasn't got enough to defend and attack.
He won't even spot it. Many villagers being damaged. This is the big deal here.
No textiles either. Some of them just barely limping away as it is, and they won't be able to easily limp away from this. Ring-a-ding-ding goes the bell, but insta-strike in. 2 villagers going down already. Should be 3 or 4 at this rate as VortiX gives quick pursuit.
Many villagers heavily damaged there as well, so they're lucky to get out alive, but that was great raid over here by
Wait, hold
VortiX.
on. He's going for the woodline now. Because PuppyPaw was greedy, he needs all the wood he can get. Instead, he has to fight with the villagers. Loses 1 more on the exit. And this is good for VortiX because all of this aggression here is drawing attention away. But PuppyPaw is wise to this. Strikes in, only 1 knight here. But if he can get a few more in and just get these trades out, he can at least dictate the flow. But keep in mind that VortiX right now is the only one playing for those relics.
And by dropping a monastery, he also is going to have a monk to heal those knights with. And you see, for now, those knights are not going back home. But they're just hiding in the stealth forest, ready to jump on those villagers again. Eventually, once those knights are heavily damaged, you will send them back home to heal up, send some new knights, and here they come once again, popping out of the stealth forest.
That is, I think that is somewhat intentional, but PuppyPaw didn't react quick enough. He was going for the counter ambush, but ends up losing another villager, and instantly VortiX reduces his soul. He
greed pays off.
Cost him a knight, though.
It's not gonna cost a knight, and look at the other side as well. Still no textiles out here from PuppyPaw, and it's starting to hurt him big time. How many villagers did he lose because of that?
Too many. Plenty of them already injured, but this makes it easier. And the knights, no! Oh, Baldy Boy sneaks into the forest, and he'll be coming back with some juicy infinite gold generation for VortiX.
Yeah, and you see, both players are trying to raid the opponent over here, but the damage that VortiX is doing is substantially larger than what PuppyPaw is able to accomplish. PuppyPaw was able to pick off a couple of lumberjacks before, but that 7 villagers lead for VortiX can mostly be attributed to just the superior efficiency of those raids coming in from VortiX.
Speaking of raids, PuppyPaw might be able to intercept here, not just the knight, but also the priest, who should be able to get a successful Wololo off here. He's looking for it.
Oh, he finds it.
Easy snipe, barely got any progress here, and now the Knight's reacting. It's going to be clash 4-on-4 here. Charges coming out from the red side, but at the end of the day, this should be a more or less even trade. Good micro back by VortiX to save one of the Knight's lives.
Indeed, that's gonna be key here. Knight versus Knight. This is where the Abbey of Kings would be such a valuable landmark, right? To heal up those damaged Knights, ensure that you don't lose those precious and expensive units. But you don't have those, so best thing you can do is heal with monks.
By the way, PuppyPaw has no blacksmith upgrades whatsoever. So his Knights just trade worse in the first place. It's why he has to keep the lead. Right now, PuppyPaw is maintaining that, but if he ever falls behind, this gets scary. To his advantage, VortiX is sidestepping into Monastery and into Monk. So he's slowing down his own production in the meantime until he gets at least 2 of these relics back home.
Yeah, you get the impression that VortiX is playing a long game over here. In a mirror, relatively even scenario, especially with civilizations that are really powerful late game. You want to set yourself up for a strong late game with relics, and that's what VortiX is doing right now.
And PuppyPaw also just shutting down a whole farming district. Won't be able to snipe out another monk just yet, but VortiX isn't even returning second relic as it stands. Has got another monk shuffling out into the midfield, and it looks like PuppyPaw, although delayed, will now go for the relics himself, and once again snipes him out. I've got to give it to him, Lidakor. These snipe outs are keeping him in this game. If this is 3 relics already for VortiX, he's miles ahead.
Yeah, as much as VortiX was successful raiding the eco of PuppyPaw, PuppyPaw has done a masterful job when it comes to denying those relics, and it's not an easy thing to do. We've talked about this one, the Stealth Forest essentially conceals those prelates or monks perfectly, yet PuppyPaw is still able to find value for those knights. This is the 2nd monk that he has killed already.
PuppyPaw peels back just in time. He was going for the old gold vein. He doesn't know what we do, which has already been drained by VortiX. VortiX in position for the 2nd pinch, but on this side he is outnumbered. Will have to back away, and it will idle his economy again as most of his knights are baited into that stealth forest, unable to ever reach their target.
PuppyPaw now takes over with the knight numbers though, and he does have the blacksmith. Actually, he is the one that's lacking the blacksmith upgrade, so it's quality over quantity right now. That's what we're looking at. Better numbers for PuppyPaw, better quality for VortiX, but a lot of idle time on VortiX's eco.
Yeah, and also, because it's idle time on VortiX's eco, not PuppyPaw, he's queuing more knights, so he'll keep the lead. Even the attack speed aura, this ends up being the even trade because they both start diving the base. Look, yes, there's an attack speed boost for VortiX, but it doesn't matter. In fact, I think PuppyPaw's on the edge of that attack speed, so it's not even triggering for the red.
VortiX did not have the attack aura when he was taking the fight close to his base, and PuppyPaw had his own when he was fighting. That's the reason why the knight number difference goes from 3 to now 7, and suddenly we're talking about almost double the army. 19 knights as opposed to 10, and we're reaching the stage where PuppyPaw can contemplate diving into the enemy base. And behind this one, VortiX is also losing map control, essentially forfeiting relics as well for PuppyPaw. This is looking really good for PuppyPaw now, with a match point in his favor.
And you know what? That match point might get closer if he spots this. Knights were looming around this area earlier on. If they come back and spot another TC, that means VortiX is double dipping, going for the relics that he still can't maintain or grab additionals of. And on top of that, now going for a third TC, that's a lot of strain. And this is VortiX surrendering control of the mid-map, building up a long-ass wall. If this wasn't the English, you'd think we were in a country that likes to wall more like China. Did you see?
Nice little charges going off on both sides. Vols will go up here, so PuppyPaw is definitely noticing that VortiX is now playing much more defensive, but no attack aura once again for VortiX. This is really good for PuppyPaw once again.
And he's already in, and look where he's going. He's heading towards where the TC and the gold is. He's already dove in there.
He already found
Blocks
it.
the second outpost. Relic come around the back, but not going to be in position to go for an aggressive Wololo. Trade on the north side at least goes the way of VortiX, but the issue is now the eco dive coming in. VortiX with the eco lead, but barely at this stage.
Knight number still in the favor of PuppyPaw, though. Heavily damaged knights on the battlefield. There's a third town center for VortiX, and that's going to pay off in the long run, but this is something that PuppyPaw has spotted now. He knows that his opponent wants to play defensive and focus on the eco, and this is where PuppyPaw needs to double down on this aggression.
And, you know, I would love to see PuppyPaw pull 1 or 2 scouts to the front. I think he's missed a lot of opportunities because he doesn't have the ranged vision to see what's coming. If he saw that relic grab, he can block the Monk. He can actually slow down VortiX again. He can also spot this TC sooner than he actually did. There's a lot of different elements so far that PuppyPaw is definitely playing the game well, but he could be playing the game even better if he had the vital information.
I agree on that, and with that information, he could benefit a lot from towers, if you think about that. The information would be there, also the attack aura would be there.
Yeah, it'd be phenomenal, because the attack speed in this fight is going to be with VortiX. PuppyPaw just kind of throwing away knights. Like, that was a terrible trade right there. 4 just flopped down dead, and all of a sudden, VortiX within 1 point on the knight count.
Yeah, it's a who blinks first contest right now. Neither of the players are willing to risk mixing in spearmen or mixing in crossbowmen. It's full knight warfare, but when both players are doing the same thing, but one player has an extra town center and will be able to build up a much better eco, you gotta ask yourself the question, what can PuppyPaw do there to negate the effects of this one? Trenches being dug for the time being, players setting themselves up for the late game, but PuppyPaw needs to do something else here. He needs to do damage, or he needs to get a third town center for himself as well.
Trenches being set up seems appropriate, as at this rate we might be getting a little bit closer to World War I, as you can see VortiX, with the way he's structuring his base, he wants to go towards Imperial. He doesn't want to stay in Castle long term. Means he's forfeiting a lot of control over, and PuppyPaw will take control of that midfield. Now, station himself outside of the base, with the outpost, on the stone as well. It will take a while, but we could eventually see a keep drop coming out from the Canadian.
Could be a thing you consider, although it would be a ballsy move if you think about that one. Trenches are being dug, this is the domain where you think about going into Imperial, and by the time you get that forward castle up, you could possibly have a Wingard Palace in the work for VortiX to take that down with.
To his credit, that was a good sneak through. VortiX will get
Beautiful
the third
move.
relic returned here. Re-wall comes out. PuppyPaw could actually snipe 1 or 2 villagers here. Isn't going to do so. And you can see VortiX can't take the fight. The glowing aura that is only on one side right now. If he clashes here, it won't be a good trade. And PuppyPaw baiting him out so he can strike him down. This spread is not going to favor him. Spaniard needs to get out of here fast. He spreads out. The attack speed aura is not there for him, which means
He's
that this is going to be
isolated.
a one-sided fight.
He can't go back home! He's cut off from the
spread out.
gate! Complete massacre by PuppyPaw here. No attack aura for VortiX. PuppyPaw has it.
And you, keep in mind, this is with heavily damaged knights for PuppyPaw. This is still a good trade. Yes, you're seeing a lot flop down on each side, but keep in mind that a lot of these knights for VortiX were fresh, but not for PuppyPaw. That's the power of the attack speed that's adding up here and allowing him to divvy out a decisive blow to what was becoming a threatening count of knights for VortiX.
As you said, many of the knights were heavily damaged, but once again, re-engagements coming in here. VortiX, pure numbers advantage that he had, and the freshness of those knights, the overall HP, winning that battle sort of to him, but what's the price to pay?
I don't like that from PuppyPaw. The Lance charges each time were matched by VortiX, and the reason I don't like it is because you don't get an increased attack speed on a Lance attack. It's everything afterwards. You need a prolonged engagement, and that's the problem with injured knights like this. You want a cycle charge. Wasn't able to do so, and now VortiX able to take the knight lead 5 ahead of PuppyPaw.
And it's concerning for PuppyPaw, because behind this one, VortiX is not only taking the Knight's lead, he is also taking the Eco lead, he has the Relic lead as well, he's much more set up long-term, and you get the feel that we are getting closer and closer to that domain where if VortiX sees no aggression coming out from PuppyPaw, he will contemplate Imperial. For now, he's reinvesting all his resources into Knights, simply because right now it's a race for who blinks first. You try to go Imperial, you will get overrun. So it's massing Knights until you reach 200 pop, and only after that, you think about Imperial.
That's more leads than a dog walker right now. That's concerning in this situation because, you know, at this rate, if PuppyPaw doesn't find a way of piling on more pressure, VortiX can just sit back for a minute and be there, like that in Imperial. And while PuppyPaw can kind of do similar, he hasn't fully contained his base. He's eco behind at this stage. He'll feel a necessity to keep aggressing. But right now, VortiX is the one aggressing. Attack speed are only there for PuppyPaw. And a lot of these knights are fresh. Not as heavily injured as they were in the last fight. The spread out comes out. And this is where VortiX could be biting off more than he could chew. PuppyPaw going to fight tooth and nail for this because he needs the gold on the front line here. And if he has to fall back here, he will have no way of keeping up this knight push.
VortiX, he's fighting against the Lidakor and he's also fighting against the Springald Tower. He ran into the Stealth Forest, and we talked about this one. You don't know what's awaiting you in the depth of those Stealth Forests. There is one lonely knight that Core is showing us slaying villagers, but the key thing is all those knights falling for VortiX, taking a horrible engagement under a tower that also had Springald emplacements.
Rest in peace, Galahad. You deserve a badass name like that because you've done more damage than all these normie knights in the main fight. They're just getting
Look who's going Imperial.
Quickly.
Look who's going Imperial, it's PuppyPaw.
That is insane. VortiX is nowhere near either. Look at it right now. He's not teching up. He's looking to reproduce all the knights he just lost.
And that's what prompted PuppyPaw to go up himself. He saw all the knights VortiX lost. He was aware of the fact that he can no longer get pushed by VortiX in the next few minutes, so he can buffer up this attack and go into Imperial straight away, get himself a nice power spike, not just with the Elite Knights, but also with the Enclosure's unique tech, which is going to skyrocket his gold income as well.
And he's going to cut off the last of the Vanguard here, chasing him down, never letting up on the pressure. And good shout out to Core showing us that detail there. Big difference here. Look at the food gathering rates. VortiX did not get the upgrade. His farms, despite the fact he has so many, are not as efficient as PuppyPaw. Even
VortiX
more
is
so
diving.
now, with PuppyPaw getting extra 5%
Sorry to interrupt, VortiX is diving.
rate.
Look at the base of PuppyPaw. All the knights are
ahead.
heading towards VortiX's base. He needs this timing push. He needs to do damage here because
Oh
he's
my
far
God,
away
it's
from
coming in.
Imperial.
They're on the farms, they're AFK right now. PuppyPaw trying to get the troops back, but it was a distraction on the east side. All knights returning to base, but there needs to be an emergency alarm bell ringing right now because by the time they get back, the Fox may have already massacred half of the hens.
And this is why VortiX sent the knights to the right side. It was all a bait. He wanted to make PuppyPaw greedy. He wanted him to pull all the knights to pursue them. And because of that, PuppyPaw was out of position, loses a dozen villagers out here, and suddenly this is actually an even game, I think.
He can split up these knights. He can go after every single farm. And look at this defensive keep coming up because PuppyPaw tried to rush in. Is it going to be quick enough, though? Switch over. Transition to spears will save the day and allow him to get the defensive keep up while he makes sure that PuppyPaw remains on the defensive as his farms continue to get raided. Now, PP going to the backside, looking for an equivalent exchange. These knights can strike down fast, yes, especially considering VortiX does not have that extra layer of protection. No textiles.
Elite Knights now diving deep into the base of VortiX over here, but VortiX has villagers to lose. He's sitting at 146. He can afford to lose 15 villagers here. PuppyPaw cannot. PuppyPaw is at 75.
And the reason PuppyPaw didn't strike the farms is he wants the condensed eco on the wood lines. He finally finds it, but by the time he does, there's enough time, and the side you come from, VortiX can just back away.
191 population.
Wait,
look at this.
Has he not noticed? Okay, finally. I was getting flashbacks right there, Lidakor. We've seen it before on a wood line for VortiX. He says, not today, not again. This is not Lipany.
And it is not even the French on the menu, it is the English. Look at the population though. VortiX, full aggression. He has no desire to go into Imperial. He just wants to flood units, and it's 200 population against 90 only. Villagers though getting slain on the south.
Hello? He hasn't noticed yet. VortiX is too busy getting ready to dive. He's stockpiling spears. It's the Zerg strategy. He just full on looking to body his opponent, counter out the Knights, and get someone that has a torch, because he's going all in.
But if this all-in doesn't work and he loses all those villagers, this could swing back into the favor of PuppyPaw.
He hasn't noticed.
Yeah.
He still hasn't noticed Lidakor. Look at the eco count. VortiX now about to shrink below 130. Yes, PuppyPaw is baby level on his economy count, but this sets VortiX back heavily.
It does. He can afford to lose 20 villagers, but sustainability is still a question. He has a massive amount of spearmen over here. PuppyPaw still needs to find a way to hold this off, and I'm not sure how he's going to do that. But if he can hold this off, PuppyPaw has a chance.
He needs a different unit type, though, because Knights aren't going to cut it alone. He does have that counter hall, remember, but they are only feudal age. He never teched up the longbows, and he needs wood. Look at the wood for PuppyPaw. He's about to run out on the west side. The only backup is on the east that he's available to right now, and that's a problem because the spears are in.
Yeah, they're diving deep. VortiX saw the longbows, or the lack of longbows rather. He knows that right now PuppyPaw can't take this fight, but it's just a matter of time until the longbows show up.
It's actually worse than it seems right now, Lidakor. PuppyPaw, a third of his eco is doing nothing. You just saw them now shuffling around. I caught them in the middle of their coffee break. Those villagers were not working. And look at that, he instantly deletes the farms. He's going to go for the defensive keep. This is a recovery point, and this is a damn good one. VortiX with the instant reaction. Body blocks coming out as the Knights try to back out. They're going to have to give their lives, though, to buy time. Knights amassing. Villagers looking to be butchered here. He'll try and hold, though. Elite Knights. Gap closing, keeping a few villagers up.
It's going to be close.
This
is going to be close.
This is going to be tight. About 5 villagers left. He needs more. He needs more to work on it right now.
He's not focusing the villagers. It's going up,
No,
but what's the price? What's the price you pay for this? Down to 40 villagers is PuppyPaw.
It's shrinking. The army's going to be wiped, yes, but now VortiX.
Nothing is left. The castle goes up, but what's the price you pay? He's down to 36 eco. Everything was sacrificed for that keep.
He calls GG without hesitation. VortiX is clawing back in. Mirror matchup, a win for him. And now 3-2 storyline as we will need a game 6.
What a set that we have on our hands right now. And this is where VortiX could be banging his head against the wall for that game on Lipany that was just a complete disaster with the villagers being lost. Or even game number 1, if you think about it, how swift of a victory it was for PuppyPaw, but suddenly VortiX looks more alive than ever, and we're going to get to the second home map of PuppyPaw here, with VortiX having a chance to even this out, and you get the impression that after this game and how convincing VortiX has played this one, the mental side of things might be favoring VortiX now.
I'm telling you, the NA fans' heartbeat mono is going to be about as flatlined as that villager count for PuppyPaw. What is he doing to their hearts right now? 2 games in a row clawed back by VortiX, and now VortiX looking like he really could take this a distance as we have to head to Frisian Marshes next. But this is where PuppyPaw has been waiting to make his stand. A choice that we haven't seen many go for, but a choice that is comfortable for PuppyPaw. One of his signature civs. The Abbassids will be whipped out on the most unlikely of maps.